Over the past few days, Jack's highlight reel started looking like damage control. His ex went on a long-form podcast and laid out a story that, if true, explains why so many isolated incidents never felt isolated. She describes emotional control, business dressed up as love, and a steady push toward choices she didn't want, then ties it to moments the internet already saw unfold in real time. These are allegations, not court findings, but the timing matters. Part 1 hit, the internet listened, and suddenly the dots connect. Pressure about platforms, paperwork she says she should have never signed, stunts that put views over safety, and a break-in that turned fear into content. The reason we're here isn't just tea, it's a pattern. And when a pattern shows up across streams, clips, and now her own account, you can't shrug it off as just drama anymore. We'll keep this fair, we'll keep it clear, and we'll keep it moving. But once you hear how it started, what he praised her for on day 1 versus what she says he pushed for later, everything else hits different. Because if the foundation was manipulation, the rest wasn't chaos, it was strategy. Early on, Jack reportedly loved that she didn't have an OAF. He called it rare, said it made her wife material, and framed himself as the guy who respected boundaries. Then the tone shifted, subtly. At first, little comments, casual hypotheticals, what-ifs about extra income. Soon, it wasn't subtle at all. She describes being taken to business meetups, where people pushed the exact thing she'd been clear about avoiding. Strangers telling her to forget morals and get on the platform like it was just another growth hack.
Michelle walked into the bathroom I was in. I was by myself. And she basically told me, listen, don't freak out, but Jack really wants you to start OnlyFans. And he said that there's no reason for you guys to be together if you're not helping. I broke down in tears. I was like, wow. Everything that he had said to me, like, oh, I know you're my wife because you don't have one. And getting me to go to dinner and try to get me on OnlyFans, but it didn't work. Now it's an ultimatum. He wanted me. When he realized he didn't have the control over me when it came to other people and like what they could say, he realized that he did need to create an ultimatum for me. And that was hard for me. And he knew that. He knew what I felt and how I felt about him and the whole situation. And I was like, let me talk to Jack. Like, I just need to talk to him. I was thinking, you know, if I go and talk to him and just say, you know, this is how I feel about this, like, he'll respect it again. And like, if he sends me home and doesn't want to be with me because of this, then like, I guess it is what it is. But I didn't want to lose that. And that was what I was like, prioritizing. It wasn't what I could make on OnlyFans. I had no idea. I had no idea how much money you could make on OnlyFans. I just knew that I really liked this guy. But I remember walking into the room that he was in. He was alone also with one of his employees. And I walked in and they just start laughing because Jack had never brought up OnlyFans to me. So it was like, because he made everyone else do it. Very awkward. Yeah, he made everyone else do it. It's sad looking back on it because that was something I respected. I was like, I respect the fact that he cares about my beliefs and he understands that. After talking to him, I was explaining how this is not in the cards for me, Jack. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, my parents, like, I can't even imagine what they would think if I did this. And he was like, your parents are gonna get over it. Like, they're gonna realize how much money you're gonna make. And I was like, am I though? Like, I had no idea. I was like, am I gonna make money? I don't know. And they were like, you are going to be very well off. They were like, this is going to be the biggest success ever. And Jack was telling me, he was like, you're gonna be, you know, my main girl. Like, we can post together. We can finally act like boyfriend and girlfriend. We can start doing things together. And like, it's not reasonable for you to be in my life if you're not involved in my life.
The way she tells it, that wasn't random chatter. It felt staged, like the room had been prepped to say the quiet part out loud so she'd feel cornered. That's the part that hits. Not a blunt demand, but a drip campaign. Validate her values in public, chip away in private. Praise her for being different. Then set up moments designed to make different feel like a liability. She says she drew the line. He kept nudging it. When pressure didn't work, reassurance did. I'll guide you. I'll protect your image. We'll do it the smart way. It sounded like support, but it functioned like leverage. And once that door cracked, everything else contracts, control, suddenly became just logistics.
I'd met him before. I was like, well, it kind of caught me off guard, especially like coming from an older man. I was just kind of like, that's the first thing you say to me is, why don't you have an OnlyFans? I was like, it's against my morals. That's all I said. I was like, it's just the way I was raised. Like, that's something not in the cards for me. And I'm firm on that. And he said, fuck your morals.
But that wasn't the whole story. The paperwork she says came next changed everything. According to her, the push didn't end at just try it. It turned into paperwork. She describes being emotionally worn down to the point where a contract felt less like a decision and more like the only path that wouldn't start a fight. The document, as she tells it, granted him access, Logan's posting ability, and a cut big enough to flip the power dynamic overnight. On paper, it looked professional. In practice, it made him the gatekeeper of her image and income.
Conversation, and I just agreed to it. it. And in my head, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'll have a conversation with him tomorrow and I'll just be like, listen, I've been thinking about it. I can't do it. Like, that's where my head was at. But I just literally, I wanted to stop the conversation. I was so uncomfortable. I had Michelle and his other employee and him just like telling me how successful it's gonna be. And that was something that I didn't know for sure. I didn't know if like I would start it and then like my parents would never speak to me again. I was fully preparing myself for that. I woke up and that morning he had a contract in hand and he told me to sign it. I didn't even have the opportunity to talk to my parents about it or for any legal representation. He gave me the contract and he basically just said sign it. I read through it and I didn't like how it said, he owns all of my social media accounts because, again, I had a following. I had 500,000 followers on TikTok. I had over 100K on Instagram. That was something I had built for years. And that was something that I held very close to me. So I was like, I just want to make sure, like, in this contract, do you actually own all of my accounts, even the ones that I have? And then he was like, no, the contract means nothing. Like, we can change anything, but it's whatever. Just sign it. So I signed it, and then first words that came out of his mouth were, "You're now Jack Doherty's girlfriend."
That's the part that stings. The same person saying, "I'll protect you," ends up holding the keys to everything that defines you online. She says he framed it as, "Hell, I'll handle the business. You just create." But when deposits hit, she alleges the split didn't match the promises, and the explanations kept moving. Suddenly, she needed approval to post. Suddenly, he could optimize captions, DMs, collabs. It's easy to call that management. She calls it control. Love language turned into legal language. Affection turned into access. And once those passwords changed hands, walking away meant risking her audience, her earnings, even her identity on platforms tied to his name. From the outside, it looks neat, a couple going all in on a brand. From the inside, she says it felt like business wearing a boyfriend mask. Nice words up front, leverage in the back. And when leverage shows up, so do choices no one should have to make. Stay quiet and keep stability, or push back and watch everything you built suddenly belong to someone else. And then the stunts started to prove her point, because when business first takes over, safety goes last.
He flipped an entire golf cart on top of me on purpose, and it was for a clip. I know that because he was trying his best to flip it, and you can see in the footage the only thing that he was looking for was the camera to see if they got it.
Oh fuck!
I was in so much pain. He thought it was not that big of a deal. I was like, Jack, I need to go to the hospital. I was crying. I couldn't even walk. My back was so bruised up, and like my whole entire spine was just bruised. And my neck, it had hit my neck. It literally could have killed me. The way it fell on top of me, it fell on my side. The back of the cart went at the back of my neck, and I crunched over, and then it hit my back. He said that he thought it broke my neck. And I'm like, if you really thought that and you're like not worried about me, that's insane. When I'm on the way in the Uber and I'm sitting upright, I'm realizing like this is bad. Like I'm in pain. I definitely need to do something. And I walk into the house. Everyone is there. They looked at me and were like, we need to go to the hospital. Like we'll go with you. So they were kind enough and realized, they watched it live and they were really pissed off at him for acting that way and, not caring about my well-being and not making sure I was okay. And when I went, Jack had met me there and he had a camera. I was so embarrassed because I'm like, I'm in the hospital. You're filming all of these things. He was like, you're the baddest one in the hospital on video. And I was like, I'm just not in the mood for this. But he was filming and they gave me medicine and I went back home. I was in bed for about a week and I was back to normal. But his joke, I guess, of everything, he bought a golf cart the day after it happened and then surprised me with it for a video. And it was like all just a joke and funny to him.
If there was a moment that made her story feel less like speculation and more like a pattern, it was the golf cart flip. You remember the clip, a risky move, a hard impact, and her ending up hurt while the stream energy barely dipped. She says the aftermath was worse than the crash because instead of full accountability and privacy, she got a camera in her face at the hospital and offhand comments that played pain for engagement. Whether you think that was clueless or calculated, it read like the same priority list she's been describing. Clips first, compassion later. What sticks is how normalized it felt. A serious injury treated like another beat in a content schedule. She says he brushed off responsibility, kept the grind going, and only circled back when there was a chance to frame the story. That's the part that makes people pause. When the person who should be protective becomes the narrator, your recovery becomes a segment. And if your audience is used to chaos, your fear gets edited into entertainment. Even if you give every benefit of the doubt, adrenaline, shock, trying to keep a brand afloat, the line was crossed the second the lens outranked her comfort. She wasn't a co-creator in that moment. She was the footage. And once you see it that way, the earlier pressure and the contract don't feel like random red flags. They look like setup steps for exactly this outcome. She takes the hit, he controls the story, but the danger didn't end there. What happened on that bus?
What the fuck up, Rob? Wait, what'd he do?
I don't know.
Wait, did he take your stuff?
I think.
What the fuck?
Oh no, I said first my bag is to get your fucking bag.
He took your purse?
I don't know.
McKinley, where?
Oh my god.
Where's the key? Where's the key? Okay.
But that was the most real trauma ever. Like, it was a noise that had never came out of me before. I was freaking out. Jack was, yelling at me. He was like, what happened? What happened? And I'm like shaking. I'm like, I can't even like explain what happened. I don't know. And it was obviously very, very traumatic for me. And I was like, please shut the cameras off. Like, I cannot, like, please take me off this camera. And he refused.
Why?
But I just started it.
Like, why?
Because this is like fucking great.
Everything's great content for you.
But
I
it
just
happened.
fucking died.
But you're alive. Let's share the story. Come on, I thought you agreed
Fuck
to.
you.
You're
for
gonna
thinking that's okay.
tomorrow though. You're gonna be so happy
But,
we
like,
recorded this. You know that.
Maybe record it, but going live again
'Cause it
right
gets
now,
clipped, you're gonna see it on TikTok.
Doesn't matter.
It
doesn't
does.
fucking matter.
I'm doing
For
this.
once, please. I'm asking, please.
If we record it, it makes it easier.
He refused to shut off the camera. He refused to stop his live stream. He was laughing about it, saying like, well, you're gonna wake up tomorrow and like you're gonna wake up to all these TikToks and like these viral clips. And I'm like, Jack, I don't care. I'm like, everything is content. Like, I don't know what isn't anymore. Like, even this, like, you can't just feel a little bit of empathy for me after going through that. And he continued his live stream. He didn't listen to me. And I was like, what more does it take for you to just respect me? And what happened to you? What happened to the guy that made me feel safe in the beginning? Like, this was horrible. And now you don't care. And I realized in that moment, I was like, this man doesn't fucking care about me. You don't care.
Took fear to a new level, and her claim about his reaction only made it worse. She says the scariest moment didn't happen on a track or a stream. It happened when the cameras were supposed to be off. During a chaotic takeover in Compton, she stayed inside the bus while the scene outside got louder. Then the door swung and a masked man with a weapon pushed in, carrying a bag big enough to make your stomach drop. She describes the air going thin, her mind jumping to worst-case outcome, and that frozen second where you measure your life in what-ifs. According to her, that wasn't the part that broke her. What broke her was what came after. Because when the danger passed, she says, Jack's first instinct wasn't to sit with her, check her hands, ask if she could breathe again. It was to package the moment. Posts went up, narratives formed. The night transformed into content in real time. If you've ever had a panic wave, you know the feeling. Your heart's still sprinting while someone else turns your fear into a headline. She isn't accusing him of causing the break-in. She's accusing him of turning a near tragedy into a marketing beat, framing the adrenaline while she was still shaking. To outsiders, that can look like hustle. Keep the audience updated. To someone who just stared down a masked intruder, it reads as a choice: comfort her or comfort the algorithm. And when the algorithm wins, the relationship loses. Stack that next to the golf cart crash and the contract she regrets, and the through line is hard to miss. Safety becomes a subplot. Her voice becomes an accessory. The memory becomes a metric. But people still ask the same question. If it was this bad, why not walk away? Her answer lives at the intersection of leverage and feelings. And it's not as simple as it sounds. From the outside, leaving sounds simple. From the inside, it's a maze. She says the contract tied her income and identity to his system. Logan's, payouts, strategy. Walk out, and you don't just lose a boyfriend. You risk losing your audience, your earning, and the platforms that suddenly require his approval to move. That's financial leverage, and it works quietly. Add the emotional layer. Months of being told, I've got you. I'll handle the ugly parts. Trust me, this is how creators win. And you start confusing control with care. That's how a boundary becomes a suggestion, and a suggestion becomes a rule. There's also the public narrative. When your relationship lives on timelines, you're not just breaking up, you're breaking character. She knew that any pushback could be reframed as ungrateful, jealous, or just bitter after the split. So you hang on a little longer, try to fix it from inside. Tell yourself the next week will be calmer, that the stunts will slow, that the deal can be renegotiated. Meanwhile, the line keeps moving. By the time you realize it's not moving back, you've invested too much to burn it all down without consequences. So, no, it wasn't a lack of awareness, it was a lack of exits. The same infrastructure that promised to protect her brand boxed her in. And when leaving means detonating your livelihood while the other person controls the edit, a bad situation becomes a long one. And that's exactly why her story hits now. Because lined up against the public clips and past incidents, it stops looking random and starts looking like a blueprint. Line these moments up, and the through line writes itself. Praise her boundaries in the beginning, pressure her when it's profitable, wrap control in the language of management, and when risk shows up, keep rolling because the audience is hungry. The golf cart wasn't an outlier if the hospital became a backdrop. The bus break-in wasn't just content if her panic became a caption. And the contract wasn't just business if access and payouts could be used to steer every decision that followed. Separate events start to look like a system. That system doesn't just chew up relationships, it burns reputation. Viewers might forgive one stunt, maybe two, but when clips stack up and someone close steps forward with a timeline that mirrors what the internet already saw, public patience runs out. Brands go quiet, collabs hesitate, even the diehard fans split. Some defend the grind, others say the grind went too far. That's how a creator loses the room, not because of one headline, but because the story stopped being surprising. You can apologize for chaos. You can't apologize for a pattern and keep doing it, and that's the real fallout. Once people believe you'll prioritize a post over a person, every new video lands with suspicion. Was this moment real? Who got hurt? Who got edited? The algorithm might still reward the spike, but the trust, the thing that turns views into a career, starts leaking fast. He can deny, explain, or reframe. She can only tell her side and ask to be believed. Either way, the internet's verdict usually isn't a single comment. It's a slow drift away. There's one piece left. Zooming out. Because beyond the names and the clips, this is a bigger warning about creator culture and the cost of turning people into content. Strip away the names and you're left with a blueprint the internet keeps rewarding. Turn real life into a series, dress pressure up as opportunity, and keep the cameras on when compassion says turn them off. That's why her story lands, because it exposes how easy it is to swap partners for plot lines and call it the grind. Maybe none of this hits a courtroom. Maybe some details get debated forever. But even if you treat every point as alleged, the pattern is the problem. When clicks become the compass, people become props. If you've ever felt cornered by someone who said it was for your own good, her account will sound familiar. If you've ever watched a risky clip and felt that hinge of guilt, now you know what it can cost behind the scenes. The fix isn't complicated, but it is rare. Empathy first, metrics second. Because once an audience senses the reverse, the trust that built everything starts to dissolve. Quietly at first, then all at once. Will end fair. These are her claims, not legal verdicts. He'll have his version. But after lining up what she described with moments the public already saw, it's hard not to see the cracks the same way she does. If you've got your own take, drop it below. Do you believe her timeline? Do you think he'll address it directly, or try to outlast the noise? And if you want the full context, watch the entire podcast in part 2 for yourself. I'll be reading every comment, and if more pieces drop, we'll follow the thread wherever it leads.